As anxiety continues to rise about inflation, overall inflation, investors, you should understand that it doesn't mean it's a blanket negative for the stock market. I mean, we love it, of course, when our paychecks inflate. We love it when the value of our home inflates. In fact, investors in ETFs already positioning themselves for a so-called inflation boom by getting into inflation-friendly sectors, energy, industrials, materials, and I think you could also add housing to that list. So after a little bit of a lull, they're back to life. The home construction index rallying to a double top yesterday. That news Jerry just talked about broke it out big time today. So for more on making inflation your friend, I want to bring in Nicholas Wealth Management, David Nicholas. David, I want to begin with housing. I'm not sure if you're long any home names, home builder names, but I don't see this abating anytime soon, and I see more room in the upside for these stocks.
Yeah, Charles, I'm really bullish on housing, both real assets and also publicly traded companies. But I think you really want to own the best of breed. So I like a name like DHI. So I think the builders is one way to play it. But one of the ways that we're playing it is actually through materials. So we're owning names like Door, LPX, because if our narrative is that, to use your word, the housing market is going to continue to be boomier, which I think it will be, I want to own the materials. I want to own the doors, the windows, the wood, the siding, all that goes into building homes. So that's why I like a name like Door, LPX. I also like the furnishings. So a name like Haverty's Furniture. I think overall the entire sector should continue to do well. So we want to own the home builders. We want to own the materials. We want to own the furnishing. I think it's going to give you a good diversified approach to own housing.
I love that you brought that up because there's an echo, right? It's a sort of halo, if you will. And a lot of people, don't figure that part out. And to your point, sometimes they outperform the home builders. I've seen that happen throughout the last year. Great stuff. Let's switch to energy because that's been the biggest winner in 2021. Ironically, this canceled Keystone Pipeline could actually push crude prices higher, along, of course, with improving economies around the world. How should investors be positioned for the continued boom in energy?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing it take off so far. I mean, inventories are somewhat of a concern, so you want to be watching that as well. But I think you're going to want to own at least one of the three big refineries. I like Marathon. MPC, I think, is a good way to play it. If the narrative is, which I think it is that the second half of this year is only going to be better from consumer spending. We've got a vaccine coming down the road. Now is the time to potentially look at some of these names that have been beaten up. I mean, if you look at Marathon, it's still 40% off its highs. If you take a diversified approach with XLE is still 50% off its highs for the years. So I think if we think the second half of this year is going to be better, which I think it is, now's the time to potentially look at some of these beat up names. But don't give up on some of the other renewable and solar as well. So we're looking to make another allocation to TAN, which is a solar ETF, and also REGI, which is a renewable. So I like a broad approach to energy, but I think the value and the upside for just your traditional refineries is pretty big still at this point.
All right, so you're giving us a lot of names, and I always appreciate that. The audience loves it because they can hone in on something specific. Do you have a favorite idea at the moment, David?
I think diagnostic testing, so QDEL. From a technical standpoint, that stock could pop another 20 to 30% from here, a nice little pullback. With more testing and diagnostic with COVID, I think QDEL is a name you want to look at.
How important is it that Joe Biden gets some sort of a spending package through? How much of that is already built into the market?
Yeah, I think we're going to get a bipartisan deal done on spending, also on infrastructure as well. So I think some of it is baked in, but I don't think the infrastructure play is baked in just yet. Last name that I really like is URI, United Rentals. I think could do well if we get some type of bipartisan infrastructure deal done. Stimulus, I think, is all but guaranteed, but we'll see what the final numbers look like when it gets passed.
URI, folks, one of my favorite names. They're in every state in this country, and you just walk by them. You don't even know. We had one in front of the Fox building, a couple of the trucks there for years, and I bet I could have questioned everyone in the building, and they say, I never heard of the company. So you got to pay attention. They're everywhere. And cash flow king. People rent them because they don't want to buy the actual equipment. Hey, David, thank you so much, my friend. Great stuff. Appreciate it.